So this is going to take you through setting up stock, which is almost identical, pretty much identical to what we did for our keychains, okay? But this is for our coaster. Now, if you remember from my constraints, you guys needed to keep this thing to 0.5 inches thick and no larger than 3.4 inches by 3.4 inches. So make sure you're following along on this, and I'll catch you up. Don't worry, Johnny. So the first thing you're going to do, even if you're not done, it's okay, because you can do all of the toolpaths and then go back to the design mode, change things, and then flip back to manufacture, and it'll just update the toolpaths. So that's completely okay. So Julian, even though you don't have anything in the middle, that's perfectly fine. You can still do all of these steps. So we're going to go to design, up here in the top left, and you're going to drop it down to manufacture. Hopefully this, starts to remind you of what we did back then, first semester. So you'll see the yellow box. I'm going to zoom out a little bit. This represents our stock, our rough stock in the machine. Now I'm going to hold this up in front of my camera and also to you guys. This is the material I'm giving you. You guys see this? This is it. This is 4 inches wide, okay? And you can see that we've cut one that didn't finish. This was a dud, but it cut out of the middle of this 4-inch wide bar. Now the bar is continuous. It comes in really long pieces, and we're going to cut it so it fits in the machine. But we want to make sure that we center this inside of this bar of aluminum. So we're going to go ahead and we're going to add a setup. So click up here where it says setup. And then this little window is going to pop up, and we're going to go and we're going to set up our stock. This is the middle button. Now, I already made a mistake because some of you guys at home and some of you guys here might not be in inches mode. I am, because I've done this a million times. But you guys might want to close this and cancel and make sure that your units over here are in inches before we do the setup. So I apologize. I went forward a little quick. Make sure your units are in inches. Okay? And then click OK. Please stop me or say something if I'm going too fast or if you need me to back up. But now, after you've set it to inches, now go to the setup folder and then go to the middle button that says stock. Johnny, let me know when you're back in Inventor, and I'll get you caught up in like a second. You good? Oh, cool. So now under the stock tab, we're going to try to get this so that these numbers down here that say stock dimensions say that the stock is 4 by 4 by 0.5. The only reason why my stock down here says 0.54 is because you'll notice that it's adding 0.04 to my top of my stock. I don't want to do that. So I'm going to 0 my stock top offset. And you'll notice that my height now is at 0.5. This tells me that I designed this correctly, because it's looking at how thick my material is, and it's adding right now 0 to that thickness. If I were to put in 1, look, it just added 1 inch to the top of my stock, but I don't want to do that, right? But if I had a piece that was 1 inch thicker than my finished part, then I would want to do that. But I'm not going to do that because I'm giving you a 1/2 inch thick material, and the finished top of your coaster is going to be a 1/2 inch. So we're going to leave that at 0. Now, since my diameter, my finished diameter is 3.4, now listen carefully, and this is 4 inches. If I do the math, 3.4 subtracted from 4 is 0.6. 0.6 divided by 2 is 0.3. So if I add 0.3 to both sides, take a look at what just happened. Now my stock width is 4 inches. So I just did some simple math in my head to figure out how to center this inside of a 4-inch piece of stock. So I guess I really don't care how you set up your stock, as long as you have your part centered inside of the rough stock and your stock dimensions are equal to this. That's what's really important. You as a designer, as an engineer, as a manufacturing engineer, have to know how to properly set up your stock. There's a variety of ways to do that in Fusion. Variety of ways. I got a chat here. Let's see what we got. Fusion froze. Uh-oh. So yeah, I'm going to put this video up on Schoology. I apologize. I know this is tough for you guys at home. All right, so the next thing I'm going to do is I'm going to put this 0 in the back left corner, because that's going to be my origin. So I'm going to click on this little top left. I'm going to click on this first tab. And where it says stock point, make sure this is highlighted. I'm going to click on the back left corner. So I'm going to leave that up on my screen for a minute. If this is not working for you, that's okay, because when you share your file with me, I'm going to check your stock setup, and I'm going to check your toolpaths, and I'll fix it. But as long as your Z is pointing up, that's the most important thing. But try to get your coordinate there, okay? And then you can hit OK. I'm going to pause the video temporarily to see if there's any questions as I walk around. Okay, so the next step is going to be, now we're going to add our pocketing operations, okay? So our pocketing operation is going to basically need to remove the material out of the inside of this, okay? We can't do that until you get the tool library loaded into Fusion. So those of you at home on your iPads, you should still have the tool library from the keychain. If you don't, please go right now to the Schoology page, to CNC Coaster, and you're going to need to download from the CNC Coaster the Haas Mills tool library. And you're going to need to download that to your Google Drive. Okay, so please do that now. Everybody in class, I am going to send you a file through Land School right now. I'm going to pause the video, and everybody's going to do this, and I'll come back. Okay, we're back, folks. Okay, so now we're going to import our tool library. Before we can create these pockets, you need to have your tool library, which is all the tools that are in our mills, to be selected from, okay? So you're going to go up here to Manage. So everybody do this. Manage. Way to go, Adam. Love that you're following along. And then you're going to go to Tool Library right here. And then this other window is going to pop up. And then under Local, you're going to right-click. That is the right button on your mouse. Right-click, Andy, right? What? Oh. If I have to go up there and do this all for you, I'm going to be really mad. And then you're going to go to Import Libraries. You're not doing any of this, are you? Me? Yeah. No. Why? Well, I asked each step. I said, please stop me and ask me to do this again if you need me to. Andre, are you doing it? No. Import library. Go to your desktop and then open the Land School folder and select the tool library, which I don't have on mine because I already have the tool. I'm the one who built the tool library. So that's why I don't have that folder, but you guys should have it. Actually, it's right here. All right, so then you're going to have the entire tool library, and then you can close it. Okay? All right, let me pause the recording and make sure the people who see who actually has it. Okay, so now we're going to do the toolpaths. So everybody who's still with me, we're going to go to the 3D menu, and we're going to do an adaptive clearing operation. So that's the first one. So make sure, please make sure that you're on 3D adaptive clearing. Click it. Okay, there's going to be 5 tabs, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. Each of these 5 tabs we are going to be going through. Start with the tool. You're going to go to the under local. Since you've imported the library, you should be able to see the WHS Haas Mill. Please stop me if I go too quick. you're going to pick tool number 2. You'll notice that that's a flat end mill. It's a 1/4 inch in diameter. You're going to select it. That is all you have to do for the first tab. It already brings in all of the feeds and speeds. Go to tab 2, which is called geometry. This is where we define where the tool should look for the pockets. We just told it, hey, we want you to pocket something out. Now we need to tell it where to pocket things out. So under machining boundary, change this setting to selection. And then pick the outside perimeter or a line that lights up to define the outside perimeter of your shape. In my case, it's a circle. You might not have a circle. You might have a square, or you might have an irregular shape, but you need to figure that out. It should light up. That's all you need to do in this second geometry tab. Third tab, for heights. Don't change anything. It's already going to sense and start machining from the top of the stock, and it's going to machine all the way down to the model surfaces, all of these geometric surfaces. The fourth tab, which is called passes. Here we're going to describe how the tool should move and in what directions and how deep it should cut for each pass. We're going to leave these alone, but we're going to turn off. Make sure you turn off stock to leave, because we don't want to leave any extra material. See, if I turn this on, you're telling it to leave 20 thousandths of material on those model surfaces. We don't want to do that. We want it to cut all the way to the finished surface. The very last linking tab is how we describe how the tool goes into the material and how it exits. It's like how you're putting your shovel into the dirt and how you're pulling the shovel out of the dirt. So for that, I'd like to change only the ramp. And the ramp is how the tool moves in. And if you kind of look at helix, I don't know if there's a preview. Yeah, look down below. You see smooth profile and helix. You can see that the shape looks like a spring. That's the best way to enter. I'm going to change the ramping angle from 2 degrees to 8 degrees. And then I'm going to change the ramp diameter to 0.12. And then I'm going to hit OK. Now, if I give it a moment to calculate those toolpaths, you're going to see a few different things. You'll see a little percentage as it thinks to calculate those toolpaths over the geometry. You'll see if I zoom in the helical entry, the 8 degrees that I mentioned is the angle that this spring slowly moves downward. The 0.12 that I used is the diameter of the spring coil shape that it's making. And that's going to really impact whether or not it can fit into things. And you're going to notice that on my next operation because I got some small detail. Matter of fact, it doesn't even cut. Take a look. It doesn't even go into these areas out here. This pocket here, this pocket here, it doesn't even go there because it can't fit. So I'm going to need to do another operation. I'd like everybody to do this also. Go to the 3D menu and do another adaptive clearing operation. For this one, we're going to select a smaller tool. So click Select. Only now, from the same tool library under Local, WHS Haas, we're going to pick, be careful, don't pick the ball end mill, it's tool 6. Pick tool number 4. That is an 1/8 inch flat end mill. It's half the size of the previous tool, which was the 1/4 inch. Under Geometry, which is the second tab, we want to also pick selection and the same machining boundary, which is this outside perimeter. But where it says rest machining, what we're going to do is we are going to change this from previous operations. From previous operations. That way it calculates only the material remaining that the first 1/4 inch tool was not able to find or not able to get to. Third tab, heights, leave them alone. It's going to sense all the way to the model bottom. Fourth tab, passes. Turn off stock to leave, just like we did before. And then also, you can leave machine cavities on for now. Sometimes I have to toggle machine cavities if it doesn't give me the desired result, but I'm going to leave that on. Under linking, since we're using a smaller tool, we're going to keep the same helical ramp, but we're going to drop our diameter down to 0.05, just so it can fit into some of these really small pockets. And then I'm going to hit OK. Yes, sir.
Did you change the ramping angle too?
Yes, ramp angle. I'm sorry, I went kind of quick on that. I'll open that window back up if I need to. But yes, ramp angle was 8 degrees as well. And my 0.05 for my diameter for the helix. So you can see now from my angle that I'm showing you that it's able to get into all of those areas that it wasn't able to get into previously. It's still calculating. I'm at 35% for my toolpath. I don't know how slow the portal will be. If you're watching this video, you might want to fast forward a little bit on the video, unless you just want to watch my screen. Still waiting. I mean, it's at 89%, and then it should blip up to 100. So there you go. There's your finished toolpaths for the second operation using the smaller tool. At least you don't need to use the 1/8 inch tool to remove all this stuff up top. Questions before I move on to the last operation, which is cutting it out. I'm going to pause the video and give you guys a moment to catch up. Okay, we're back after our short break. Now we're going to do our final toolpath. You're good, right? Yeah. All right, perfect. Now we're going to do a contour. So our contour is going to cut this out, right? We got everything machined, everything looking great. Now we want to cut this thing out. So we're going to go to 2D. So everything so far has been 3D. This is the only operation, unless you're doing a trace. Is anybody doing a trace? Like tracing with the engraving tool? And if you are, I can help you individually with that. Not going to add another step. So just go to 2D, contour. Okay, 2D contour. Select for your tool the 1/4 inch. My computer is so slow today. Look at that. This is supposed to be like a really good computer too. Pick the 1/4 inch tool. Oops, wrong library. Which is tool number 2. Always do the contours with the 1/4 inch tool, please. All right, select it. All right, so here's the same 5 windows. Hopefully you guys are seeing the repetition here, right? It may, the first time you see this, it's a little overwhelming, right, Andy? Andre, it's a little overwhelming. I go kind of fast. There's a lot of buttons, a lot of windows. But I'll be honest, when you start doing it like 5 times, 6 times, 7 times, you're going to start to realize it's kind of the same thing over and over. A lot of this stuff out here is kind of complicated, but then when you do it like over and over and over and over, it starts to get a little more easy, okay? So here we go. Geometry. This time you don't have to pick like selection. You can literally just click on the perimeter. Okay, so there's your geometry tab. Pick the perimeter. Now here's the only other curveball that I'm going to throw at you under geometry. Please turn on tabs. Turn on tabs. Do you see these little like rectangles? Let's make them triangles. Turn on tab shape to triangle. These are there so that when we're cutting this thing out, as we're cutting it out, it doesn't fall out. So it's going to leave these little pieces of aluminum around the perimeter so that when we're done, we can take it over to the vise and smack it out with a hammer. Because we don't want this thing to be loose. Like right now, I hear the mill running for Leslie. It's doing the contour cut. I know that sound. And if she didn't have tabs on hers, at the moment it starts to become free, it's going to start jiggling around, and then it's going to break the tool. So always add tabs, and I like the triangle ones because they break easier. Next tab, heights. Since we did a 2D toolpath, two-dimensional toolpath, it doesn't know how deep to go. So we have to tell it. Start at the stock top. For the bottom, go to the model bottom. So tell it, model bottom. But that's not good enough. Because sometimes when you're like, the tool is exactly at the bottom of the material, it doesn't quite break through. So I'm going to actually tell it to go a little bit deeper. Negative 0.05. Negative 0.05. Just to go a little bit deeper. Okay? The fourth tab for passes. This is how deep it's allowed to go per pass. Turn on multiple depths. And turn your roughing step to 0.15. That's how deep I allow the 1/4-inch tool to go each time it starts to cut. You'll see that in the preview. The very last thing you need to do is go to linking and click on ramp. Turn that checkbox on. You can leave it at 2 degrees. That's fine. And then say, OK. And you're all done.
Wait, what was the last thing you did?
Last thing I did, sorry, I know, I got excited. I got really excited. I panicked. I panicked and I hit OK. Wait, open up. There it is. Last tab I clicked, I just turned on ramp. That's all I did was click the checkbox next to ramp. And then click OK. Now, if you want to, you can hold the shift key down. You can highlight all 3 of these operations. Right click and you can simulate. And when you do that, it'll show you what that part looks like. And then you're good to go. I'm going to stop the video.